Did you know that only half of employees know what's expected of them at their work? This means that one out of every two people do not truly know what is expected of them in their job responsibilities. So, out of the 163 million employed individuals in the United States, only 81 million of them actually knows what they're supposed to be doing while at work. It's important that employees understand their job responsibilities for smoother day-to-day operations and to ensure that nothing falls between the cracks. This is why it's vital to learn to better communicate and clarify employee responsibilities in a company. My name is Haley Danley, and I recently transitioned to a new job here at OU Medical School as a coordinator. Although I have been here for a little over a year, I still find that stuff pops up in my position where I'm questioning whether or not it falls within the scope of my job responsibilities or maybe of a coworker. But I've currently been working with a committee of other coordinators to clarify our responsibilities and finding the best way to tackle this situation and ensure everyone knows what's expected of them. There are a couple of things that I'd like to discuss today, starting off with why do employees not know their job duties, as well as what is currently being done to ensure at OU that employees know what their job responsibilities are. And I would also like to discuss how we can communicate and clarify responsibilities better to employees in the future. So, first, I'd like to talk about why employees might not know what their job duties are. To start us off, the first big problem here is a managerial issue. A lot of times there might be a poor communication of goals by management, and if employees do not understand what their goals are, then how are they supposed to work towards it? And, how can they know what's expected of them? It's vital that management communicates the goals of either the department or the company effectively and allows their employees to discuss and reflect on the goals after they're presented. From here, management also needs to create a safe space where employees can ask questions and clarify their role in accomplishing these goals. Additionally, there might be a lack of comfortability with management that can cause problems and cause employees to resist asking for help. In a concerning survey by CLO, it found that only 11% of participants claimed to feel comfortable enough to ask their supervisor for advice on problems at work. This is very concerning and needs to change in order for employees to be comfortable enough to be vulnerable and admit if they maybe don't understand their role in the goals of the company or whether or not a certain task falls within the scope of their job duty or the job duty of another coworker. The second reason that employees might not understand their job responsibilities is a lack of feedback. Most employers provide true feedback maybe once a year at annual review, and this is not enough. It's okay as management to give feedback more often. If an employee is not doing something that they're responsible for, it is management's job to tell them. And they may not know that something falls within the scope of their responsibilities, and they'll never know unless someone points this out to them. Additionally, by providing feedback and communicating more frequently with employees, as long as it's not overwhelming and abrasive, employees may feel more comfortable and willing to ask questions of management, gaining more clarity on their position and what it entails. A final reason that employees may not be understanding their role with the company is a constant change in policy. Too many changes too quickly can cause whiplash for employees, resulting in chaos and a lack of clarity. Employees need time to adjust between policy changes. If there are too many things switching on them, their responsibilities become convoluted and they may not know what's expected of them anymore. I understand that the world moves quickly, but management should show a little bit of patience and allow employees to adjust to new changes so they fully know what their jobs look like now under new policies. So, we've just discussed some of the reasons that employees may not understand what their job responsibilities are, but now I'd like to discuss what OU is currently doing to ensure employees know what their job responsibilities are. The first way employees know what their job responsibilities are is simply from the job description on the application they submitted. This description looks different from application to application and typically isn't standardized. I want to start by saying that this does a great job of communicating an idea of what the job looks like, and it's a really good way to introduce applicants to what might be expected of them should they be hired. However, as you can see from the example that I have listed here, that sometimes the description can be too vague and applicants may not really understand what they're applying to or what might be expected of them after they submit their application. I'd suggest maybe adding a little bit more detail to these job applications, just simply to better clarify to applicants what might be expected of them should they be hired. Another way in which employees learn what their responsibilities are is by word of mouth. This normally comes from coworkers in the same department who worked with their predecessor and can fill them in on what they should expect or what's expected of them as a new employee. This is a great resource for anyone who's new, trying to grasp, what's expected of them or what their position might look like. However, the main concern with this method of training or informing employees of their job duties is that unless cross training has occurred, or maybe this employee had been in this position previously, their coworker's description may not be very accurate and there could be some missing information. So, while a great strategy overall, this should not be an employee's only method of learning about their job responsibilities. The final way that employee responsibilities are currently communicated is by handbooks. This is a great resource for new employees to learn what is expected of anyone in their position. However, sometimes handbooks can be too complicated and lead to more questions after reading them. There might be details about the company or its operations that the new employee would not understand. It all depends on their onboarding process, the information they're provided, and whether or not this is provided before or after they're given a handbook. Additionally, the handbook may not be department specific. I know mine specifically was not. And in my position, I have different responsibilities in my department as someone with the exact same position in another department, simply due to different dynamics and needs in the different departments here. So we've just discussed what we are currently doing well to communicate job responsibilities, but now I'd like to talk about how in the future we can better clarify and communicate employee responsibilities to our employees. The first solution I have to offer is ongoing training for employees. Ongoing training will allow for employees to refresh on their goals and how to accomplish them. Additionally, with more training, employees will be able to improve their skills overall. This goes beyond simply learning what their job responsibilities are and allows them to become, more successful in their in their job anyways. So it's a win-win for everyone. Finally, ongoing training will help employees better adapt to change. Earlier, I mentioned that one of the main reasons that employee responsibilities may be unclear is a constant change in policy. By offering ongoing training, it allows for employees to adjust to these trainings or to adjust to these changes and get a better understanding of what's expected of them. There are a variety of formats to choose from when it comes to ongoing training. There's seminars, conferences, meetings, etc. And management should suggest the one that works best for their employees and their individual goals. Another way to help clarify and communicate employee responsibilities is by sending out consistent employee surveys. These can be sent via email. I would suggest maybe once a quarter, maybe more, depending on what management thinks is best. They know their employees better than I do. I would suggest making these short and sweet. That way, employees do not feel burnt out or overwhelmed by consistently answering these surveys. But these surveys would allow for employees to communicate with you what they're not understanding and why, as well as maybe express any confusion over what's expected of them. Additionally, this method of communication might feel a lot safer for employees. They might feel better about expressing these thoughts over a digital medium rather than face to face, especially if they might be new to the company. The final solution I'm going to suggest is that managers schedule frequent catch ups with employees in their department one on one. They don't need to last too long, maybe 30 minutes, whatever you believe is best, every couple weeks. But this is to give employees the opportunities to ask questions in private with just you without having to worry about, the opinions of others, other coworkers, their peers. And then by having these frequent meetings, a more positive relationship can be created between employees and management, and hopefully will improve their communication down the line. This was a strategy that I learned from my manager when I first began working, and it not only improved our relationship with each other, but I learned that she is someone that I can trust and I can go to with anything related at work. I do believe, though, that this is the responsibility of management to reach out to their employees and continue to maintain these meetings long term, so that way that they can continue increasing their communication and building a more positive relationship with each other. Given the lack of understanding some employees have about what's expected of them, it is the job of management to improve communication and clarify employee job responsibilities. As a company, we need to address the reasons as to why our employees feel confused in their job responsibilities, focus on what we are currently doing and either improve or change it. And we need to look into ways that we can improve the clarity and our communication skills with employees. Now that we have a plan in place, I expect the number of employees who understand the full scope of their responsibility to increase beyond 1 and 2 people, especially here at OU. Thank you. I'm happy to stick around for a couple minutes if anyone has any questions. Thank you so much.